Muse. It's me. Sorry if I seem a little bit on the melancholy side, but that's part of being an artist, I suppose. Things happen, but that's not why I'm here. I actually have a very specific thing I want to talk to you about. And this is kind of was inspired by a conversation that I had with a fellow writer, and I built upon it. The idea stems from the old adage, write what you know. And I would posit that I have a cat frolicking about. I would posit that by nature, writers need to not just write what they know, but write what they don't know. And I know that sounds crazy, but let me talk to you about this discussion me and this fellow writer had. I was telling him about the work that I was writing now, and his immediate reaction was that I was going to get hammered. And the reason why he said that was he's a young adult author, or he writes young adult fiction. He's not a young adult. He's my age. And within that world, writers tend to hammer other writers. And it can get really vicious because they will say, for example, that a male writer has absolutely no business writing a female protagonist. And it gets really, really specific. That an adult male writer has no business writing young female characters. So naturally, our conversation within the confines of our conversation, I take that to the extreme, and I say, if that's the case, then that means that all I can ever truly do is write autobiographies or write fiction about people that are exactly like me. And that, my friends, really narrows the scope for which we can work. I mean, imagine if Mary Shelley followed that idea and never wrote Frankenstein. Or Bram Stoker never wrote Dracula because he's not a vampire. So what's he doing writing about vampires? And so, from my perspective, it is crucial for artists to work without the boundaries for which we exist. Because if we only work within the boundaries of which we exist, things get really narrow and boring. And let's face it, nobody wants to read a book about me. Maybe some people do, I don't know. But if I just wrote, if every book I wrote focused on men my age, or protagonists that are my age, with my predilections for being a nerd. So if I wrote about a middle-aged male writer writing books about middle-aged male writers, I mean, think about it. It can get really, really, blinders we're talking about. Narrow scope of vision. And I know that the book that I'm writing now, part of the story is about a homeless person. And I've never been homeless. There have been times I've been close, but I've never been homeless. And because of that constraint within my life, or not constraint. I guess because that I've been lucky enough, knock on every piece of wood around me, to have never been homeless, that doesn't mean that I can't write about a homeless character. I mean, yes, most everything I write is fiction. So you have to suspend disbelief here. I've written a lot about zombies. They don't exist. So if somebody were to come to me and say, you can't write about zombies because you're not a zombie. And even though one of my books, I, Zombie I, is from the perspective of a zombie. I've never been a zombie. I've never been killed and reborn. And a lot of my books have female protagonists, and I'm not a female. But it is on me to attempt to write about those other characters, other genders, other experiences in a way that is believable. And so I spend a lot of time either researching or crafting and molding and building these worlds and these characters so that they can be believable. And I try very hard to do them, to write these characters that are not me with as much respect as I can. I'm not writing this character in this book who happens to be homeless. I'm not writing him as an insult. And I'm certainly, it's not to be mistaken as a celebration. And the other issue that came into our discussion was privilege. Yes, I'm a white male, and I know that I have a certain level of privilege in my life, simply because of my gender and the color of my skin. And I'm not, I don't take advantage of that. And I understand its place in society. And I don't take it for granted. I don't say that I can write this homeless character simply because my white privilege allows me to. I write this homeless character because it was necessary for this story. In fact, it's a driving force of this story. And if I couldn't write this particular character who was homeless, I couldn't write this story. So I would say that I understand where my friend was coming from, and I understand his plight. And I also understand that most of these criticisms come from other writers. You don't ever hear readers, I have never heard readers complain that person shouldn't be writing about that because they are not X. I've heard readers say, this writer wrote about X in such a way that I didn't believe it, or in such a way that I did believe it. And every writer that I know wants to write about these things in such a way that they are believable. And sometimes it takes a great deal of care to do so. I never write female characters on a whim. I give them the respect and honor them in such a way that they are believable. How I do that is just a part of my process. But if we were limited as artists to only write or create from our perspective, then things get really boring. Now, of course, everything I write is going to be filtered through my experience, because that's what makes my work unique to me. I am the sum total of all of my parts. And my art is a product of the sum total of my parts. And part of that, one of those parts, is imagination. And without imagination, I can't do what I do. And imagination helps me to create these characters that are not me. And my heart and my experiences, my understanding, my knowledge, my compassion, those are the things that help me to write these characters that are not me in such a way as they can be believable. So, to those writers out there that criticize other writers for writing something that is not them, then hold off on your I would say to hold off on your criticism until you've read that work. And if you find it unbelievable within the realm of the world that the writer has created, then you might have a legitimate criticism. And then, of course, there are all other sorts of things that factor into this, that are ugly things that factor into this that I don't want to get into because I don't want to talk about that sort of thing. But as long as we writers, as long as we artists are dealing with these characters that are not us in such a way that honors them, that respects them, then it needs to be okay. And of course, as long as we're not taking advantage of our white privilege or whatever privilege you have, that it's the world is, we exist in a minefield right now. And so many people have to tiptoe through this minefield to make sure that you don't set something off. And art wants to dance through that minefield, because that's what art does. Art honors our differences. It honors who we are and where we've come from and where we're going. It honors diversity in every possible way. So, as long as I'm doing my best to represent these characters that are not me in a way that is believable, and I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about the metaphorical me, the me as a whole, artists. As long as we artists are doing this, then it needs to be okay. And other artists need to stop lashing out at one another for very, very many reasons, not just this. Artists need to celebrate one another's success. And so I hope that in the end, when I finish this work, this piece of work that I'm doing, that I have done so in such a way that respects the characters that I'm writing. And I'll know that. Beta readers will tell me that right away. And it's not like I'm going to be able to... it's not like I'm going to go out and find a homeless person and say, hey, would you read this and tell me if I've represented you in such a way that you're okay with? I'm not going to do that because that's insulting. And I don't want to insult anybody. I'm not in the business of hurting people. I'm in the business of celebrating them and honoring them. So, that's what I got today, Muse. I know it's a little heavy, but sometimes you just got to go there, I suppose. Anyway, 4 weeks in a row. Yay. We did it, Muse. I think we've overcome that obstacle. So I'll be back again next week. Why, Muse? Because you, sir, are awesome.